loves, and welcome back to another build. I'm sorry about the background noise. They are doing some sort of construction outside my window and it'll probably last all day. And so today's the only day I have to record voiceover, so I'm gonna do that today, and hopefully you guys can ignore the background noise. I can't get away from it. All of our rooms have windows that face the street, and so you hear all the sirens and whatnot of Brooklyn life, so you can enjoy that while you watch my build. I thought I would do something a little different today. I have all the packs in my game except the two newest ones, so I don't have the Moschino pack or Realms of Magic yet. I'm hoping to get them, but I wanted to do a base game build because I feel like a lot of people love watching videos that have all of the packs, and especially the new ones. I love the look of the Realm of Magic build and buy. It looks amazing. But for in-game, I think, especially when I was first starting out playing The Sims and I only had the base game in Sims 4, I enjoyed watching all the build videos, but in my game, I wanted to have more base game builds, because going through and finding lots on the gallery that you really liked and then having to figure out like what was missing was a little difficult. So I wanted to make a base game build that looked, I don't know, it looked finished and it looked polished and it didn't look like anything was forgotten. Although I will admit I did forget to furnish an entire room, but I'm just gonna pretend that I left that for you to furnish. Initially in my weird mind, I thought it's gonna be the laundry room, not remembering that laundry day is a pack. And then I guess because I never came across the laundry day stuff when I was going through the catalog, I just never put anything in that room. It's in the back of the house, so you could definitely make the kids' room in the back a little bigger, or if you have any packs in your game other than base game, you can make that whatever activity room there is. There is a study that has skill building stuff in there, so it has a chess table and an easel. This is the first build I've done where I haven't created a family to have some sort of elaborate backstory. I recently just also finished a build in Strangerville that has like an incredibly complicated backstory, and I'm probably gonna do the voiceover for that one today and release it sometime next week. But this one doesn't really have a backstory. I mean, it's just a base game build. I do like this build. It's like a contemporary Mediterranean style home, and I wanted to make it fit the aesthetic of Oasis Springs because this is where I built it, to have the Mediterranean style, but I wanted to make it a little bit more modern. Like they updated the exterior of the house, they added nicer windows and things like that, and they closed up a lot of like the balconies and things like that and enclosed them into rooms that they needed. But I really enjoy how this house turned out. I will say, when I was doing base game builds, I realized that in the 5 years that The Sims 4 has been out and base game has evolved, the texture of things has really, really improved. Like I look at the windows that were originally available and the doors that were originally available when base game came out versus the things that they've added throughout the years. So like doing the base game windows that were originally in the pack versus like the new windows that they've released with base game is just, it's like night and day. When you do things like this, you realize like the effort they put into creating a game where if you just have the base game, you should be able to do exactly what it is you want to do, and that includes adding like these items from the show live edit objects. I came across, I think it was like a Twitter post, I don't remember who wrote it, but saying that if you raise up these garden like the community garden things, that they have an actual ledge, and it's true, and I enjoyed doing that in this build. I think it looks really good, and I wanted to make this like a little bit more of a polished sort of suburban style home, which is not my typical style, but I wanted this to look more polished, and I think it ends up looking pretty polished. I made it really, really big in the beginning, taking up pretty much the entire lot with like no room for any landscaping. So I do trim down on the house quite a bit as the build progresses and kind of take rooms away and make everything a little bit smaller. But overall, the proportions of the house are pretty big. I mean, there's a huge kitchen. The kids' room in the back, again, is small because I forgot to use that little extra piece I had. So if you want to make the kids' room in the back a little bigger, you can. But the teenage girls' room that I built, I think looks really good. So I did have kind of an idea of the people that would live there. I just don't think I made them when I was playtesting. I just had a random sim come and playtest everything when I was doing it. I don't know why I did that. I like thinking back now, like I normally like create the family I envision living there, and for this build, for some reason, I didn't do it. But yeah, overall, I love the way that the exterior of the house turned out. I think it looks like it fits into Oasis Springs really well, but it's just a more modern, more polished version, and I think that the exterior doesn't look like it's just some random square base game build house that's like available on the gallery. Hopefully I enjoyed the way that this turned out. I hope you guys did too. Another thing I really enjoyed about doing base game only is looking at how things like the fences and the lighting and stuff has changed. I used the new fence that came out, and I thought I wouldn't like it. I thought it was a little bit too industrial for what I had in mind, but it does look really good. I also enjoyed mixing these two wallpapers. I think it gives the house a little bit more three-dimensionality, because as much as I love everything about base game and how it's expanded, sometimes when you just apply like the wallpaper to the outside, it can look a little flat. So I like the fact that this matched a little, and that that you could make it look a little bit more 3D. I ended up changing the windows on the exterior quite a bit. I don't remember if I recorded all of it, but I did, especially like in the kitchen area when I was making the kitchen and trying to get it to fit properly. It wasn't, and so I ended up changing the windows around quite a bit. I end up really liking how it looks. I like the fact also that the house it's big enough to take over the entire lot, and I did that because even though that there are kids living here, I put it right next to the park that's in Oasis Springs, and I wish that they did that with Other Worlds. I feel like with Other Worlds, there's not enough like off-lot stuff that your kids can go do, and just like you don't have to like have loading screens and things like that to get there. And that's why I really like where this specific lot is in Oasis Springs. It's on the Springscape lot, and it's right next to a park, stuff for kids to do, and it's really pretty. And I think that there's like a vendor that is in there with like coffee and stuff in the morning, and I just think that it's nice to have things like that around where you have your main lot, so that you're not just like stuck in one area. You have to always load in and load out to have your kids go to a park, and everyone can be on that same lot, and your kids can be doing one thing and the parents can be doing another, and it's not all over the place. So I also will say that for this build, I used the lights that came in the new patch, the ones that were directional, and you can light up the side of the house with them. They look so good, and it's those little things that you can add to the game that you realize make all the difference. And for me, that was a really fun thing to play around with, was the new lighting and see how that fits into the game, and especially at night, which is when I like to do lighting. I like to have it on night mode and put in all the exterior lighting so I can see what it would look like at night, because I want it to look realistic and I want it to look like it fits in that world. I enjoy this about this particular location. I think that this is a really nice location to build because you can basically use up the entire lot area and not have to have a lot of landscaping in the back, because you have this wonderfully pretty park right next to it. And I think that the landscaping that they did in that park is really good, especially when Seasons came out. I felt like they had changed it a little bit to update the landscaping. I don't know if that's true or if I just think that in my little brain, but I thought it ended up looking really, really good. So you'll see me mess with the floor plan a little bit, and I don't remember if I edited any of this out. I feel like I did delete some stuff, but I might not have deleted all of it when I was going through and editing this build. But it took me a while to figure out how I wanted to set this all up. And initially I thought I'd have like a nursery in the back, but then I realized like that's where I want the kitchen to be. And this is sort of coming into like the final look of what it's gonna be. And you can see like that room in the back behind the kitchen, that little square, I forgot about it, honestly. I never did anything with it. It's just empty. And I don't know why. No idea why. But yeah, I ended up really having a difficult time with the floor plan just because I couldn't figure it out and I wanted it to be a little different. And I think mostly I forget when I'm going off of finding things on Pinterest. I think I found the exterior of this like on a Pinterest post that I came across, and I wanted it to look like that, and I forget that I shouldn't just make everything look exactly like it is in the post. And so then once I got to the inside, I kind of had to take over a little bit and do my own little creative thing. So, but I ended up really liking it. I ended up liking the way that it looked. That front room on the right hand side is the study, and then behind it is the master bedroom and master bathroom, which are really big. And I wanted them to be that way. I wanted this to be one of those sort of sprawling suburban homes that you would find in a place like this. Like, I wanted it to seem like they were, you know, a little bit more well-to-do. And this area of Oasis Springs is like kind of that middle class sort of feel. It's not like where the Calientes live and they're like those huge houses and they have like a million rooms and huge pools and things like that. I also wanted to know what you guys thought about the leak that came out that we're getting university possibly in the game. And the only reason I'm excited about that is because the last family I was playing with before I completely abandoned them were this family of a mom and dad, and then two twin girls that were a little older and two twin boys that were a little younger. When the girls grew up, I wanted them to go to university, but we didn't have university, so I couldn't do that, and I abandoned them. That room right back here that I just made, I don't do anything with it, with the blue tile. I kept thinking it would be like I don't know. I think you could probably make that the bathroom that I end up having in the kids' room, and having the kids' room be a little bigger, because I do put a child bed and a toddler bed in that room in the back, and then this room with the pink flowers in the front, I make the teenage girls' room, which it's huge, and the kids' room in the back is just tiny. So maybe that family just hates their kids, and the teenage girl took over like the giant room. No idea. But yeah, I wanted it to still have that feeling of where this area is in Oasis Spring, where it's a little bit more up and coming. it's a little, sorry, the noise in the back is just so much. They just sound like they're breaking windows outside. No idea what's going on. Anyways, yeah, I wanted it to stay that middle class sort of feel. And I grew up in I didn't grow up. We moved to this kind of area in North Carolina when I was in high school. So we had lived in apartments or a really small house up until I was in high school. And then we finally moved to a house that had like these really big sprawling rooms and this big kitchen, and it's like where you expect to find, like, I guess, the middle classes in America. And so I just wanted this to be that sort of build. I love that stove that I put, the one that's the griddle, but for some reason that's the only stove that doesn't reach the end of the counters. Like every other stove fits in where the counters kind of come up right to the edge of the stove, and for some reason that one just sits apart, and I'm not quite sure why, and I don't think I've ever noticed it before, but that really bothered me for some reason. I do end up using it in my Strangerville build that'll come out later, but I didn't want to use it in this one because I wanted it to seem like a full kitchen. Another thing is that it's hard when you're doing base game only to use all the stuff that you really, really like. There were definitely pieces where I was like, oh, I'm going to put this in my game. Like when I was doing the teenage girls room, I really wanted her to have a vanity, not realizing that those vanities that came out were in vintage glamour stuff. And so I don't know how to like disable packs in my game. I know when people do like base game only packs, they can disable their other packs, and I don't think I know how to do that. So I was just going in every time and like filtering based on base game. Like every time I would go into the catalog and have to redo it, I have to put in just the base game. I think I also clicked the one where it was like free holiday stuff that I think everyone should have. If you don't, like, you should have, I don't know whether it's because I have the deluxe digital edition of The Sims 4 or whether everyone should have this, but there is like a free holiday pack that has come out, and they update it every so often with base game stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know that I also have that option in it. And I think everyone should have it. And if you don't, I don't think that there's a lot of stuff from it, so it shouldn't be a huge deal. But yeah, so I enjoyed the fact that this had like a little bit more room for everything and a little bit more room for creativity. And I wanted it to make it so that you could fit a larger sized family in it. It's by no means a starter home at all, right? So I don't remember the total price of what this comes out to, but it's definitely not a starter home. Like there's a lot in it. But I enjoyed this area in the backyard quite a bit. It turned into like sort of like a pool house type area for your Sims. So they have the grill outside, and they have in the deck area where they can eat and things like that. And now I'm just working on the living room, and I like using the octagon here because each side is big enough so that you can fit in an entire living room set. Usually when I make the rounded rooms, you can't really put a lot in there because you just do, one tile for each. So I liked having the bigger octagon because it really allowed me to fit everything I wanted to in there. And then this is the study, and so it has quite a bit of skill building stuff. I put a computer in there, and the bookshelf, and chess table, and the easel, just so that it was kind of all contained in one room. Another thing that was difficult was picking out artwork. I think that the artwork in other build or another packs is a little bit better. there's a lot of clutter still for base game stuff. It was easier looking through the live edit object stuff and the show hidden objects because it wasn't a million things. Anytime I do builds where I'm using all the packs and not really restricting myself to anything and I can just look through everything, it does become a little overwhelming because there is so much stuff now in the debug menu that you don't really have to worry about. So in that sense, it's a little easier because it doesn't take as long. I think this build took me the shortest amount of time just because I wasn't having to search through. You don't have to wade through huge amounts of all the stuff that's in the debug menu, because now with them having live edit objects and everything on there, it's so much that you have to wade through to get to what you need, and it took so long to do all of my other builds when I don't restrict myself in terms of the packs that I'm using. And so for this one, just to restrict myself to base game only and only having those debug options to go through, it did make it a little bit faster. I think this is probably the fastest I've ever built and furnished an entire house, just because I wasn't having to go through so much stuff to get it to look complete. So I did enjoy that quite a bit. I like the little girl's, or the teenage girl's room, a lot. She has a guitar in there, and it's like a mix where she has had this room probably since she's been a child. So like the wallpaper is very old and her furniture is a bit dinged up because she's just probably had it for so long. But she's starting to slowly change and adjust like what's in the room. So she has her guitar in there now, but she still has some of her toys and stuff from when she was a kid. So it's a good mix of like what you would expect a realistic kid's room to look like as they age, right? So you can't always easily change like wallpapers and paints without having like that time to do it, and sometimes it takes a little longer. Like my little sister's room is still like very bright pink, and she's in her 20s now. She's just turned 21, and so now she's like going in and changing her furniture and changing the paint in her room. But it's just because you don't, I don't know, she's in college, so she doesn't spend any time in her room. And then I ended up I changed the kitchen around a little bit to make this bar area where they have their coffee machine and their tea and their microwave. Just seemed very bougie to me to have like that little area. And then this is the bathroom for the kid and the toddler, and everything is just so cramped in here, but I think it looks really good. I think it seems like it fits everything that you would want it to. I did have to size down like the dollhouse and stuff, but otherwise it looks really good. And then this is the pool area that has the deck kind of that goes out onto it. That's it. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to comment down below and hit the thumbs up button, and definitely subscribe. I enjoy coming out with this stuff. I will leave the origin ID at the end so you can find it on my gallery. Also, it'll be uploaded on Mod The Sims later.